So this is going to be the last video on Flexbox, and I'm sure that we've summarized all of the different things that you can do with Flexbox in this section, and then you can go off and start using it and creating all sorts of really cool responsive websites and layouts with it. But for now, what we're going to be doing is going through and learning the final property. Now, we've learned how to align all of the elements at the same time in our Flex container. We learned how to align it both vertically and horizontally. But what we're actually going to be doing is learning how to align each item. And remember, because each item is laid out widthwise in a certain way, we can only align it vertically. So just keep that in mind for now. So let's get started. Now, in order to align it vertically, we use the align items property to work with and align all of these. So in this case, what we did with our container is aligned all of them to the center. But what we're going to be doing now is going through and aligning each individual item using a special property called align self. Now, one thing to note is that this property will override the align items property if you have it enabled. So for example, if I wanted to align this to the top, it would override our center and would align this only this item to the top. So let's get started. First thing I want to do is go ahead and add the property, and remember, we have to go and add it just like everything else. So I'm going to go through and add it now. So first thing I'm going to do is go and let's just take our first item, for example. Where is it? There we go. So now I'm going to go ahead and add align self. And now we can go ahead and add our different values. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and try something just like with the normal values. Let's go ahead and say flex start. So just like our other values with our default container, what we can actually do is align them with the same values. So center, flex start, and flex end. So let's go ahead and refresh the page. And you can see now that that specific item, which is D, or the first item, is aligned to the start of the Flex container, whereas the rest of the items are aligned to the middle, which is based on the align items property that we had on our container. So now let's go ahead and create a sort of V shape out of all of our items here. So what I'm going to do is first go and add our align self property to all of our values here, or all of our container items. And now what I'm going to do is start styling them. So we know that the first one is at the start. We want the second one here to be in the center. So although it's already defined, I'm just going to say center to make everything a little easier to read. Now we're going to go ahead and look for the third one, which needs to be at the bottom. So what I'm going to say here is flex end. And let's go ahead and refresh, working so far. Our fourth one has to be on the same level as E, so we're going to keep that in the center here, wherever it is. Let's see. Yeah, it's the fourth one, center. And now we want our final one to be at the top as well. So it is a little confusing to read with the orders, but after a little bit of looking, you can see how this whole thing works. Now, obviously, it's a little bit out of proportion because of our sizes here, but you can see that our thing is still responsive. It's still resizing in the same way. We just align the items differently. All right, so there you go. That's pretty much how this works. And one thing to note that before we move on is you can't actually use stretch and baseline on align self. They just don't work because they are kind of container specific properties, and they work off of values of the container. So aligning it on an item just wouldn't really work in the same way. So that is one thing you need to keep in mind, is that you can only use these three values. Alright, so like I said, we were moving on and learning about all of the different alignments, and now that we've learned how to align each item, we can really use this along with our flex property and some other Flexbox properties on the container to create a really nice responsive layout. So I encourage you to go ahead and try this on your own, create your own flex layouts, and don't even just use these blocks. You can go through and use images and forms and all sorts of things and just style them in a way that makes the website look good, because now that you've learned the tools to create a responsive container, you can go through and actually start practically applying it to the real world. All right, let's move on.